You're welcome back. Now, a joint military police team has been dispatched to the Karaga district in the northern region to maintain law and order and also restore peace in the area. It comes after some irate youth of the governing New Patriotic Party there chased out the youth employment coordinator. They accuse him of discrimination in recruitment into the agency. The offices of the district chief executive officer was also shut down, whilst a motorbike belonging to the YEA coordinator set ablaze. The youth also reportedly stormed a police station to free some of their colleagues who were in police custody. Police say they are committed to providing absolute security and protection for residents, hence the additional deployment of security personnel. Let's get on the lines and speak to the Public Relations Officer of the Northern Regional Police Command, Mohammed Tanko. Good evening. Good evening and thanks for your time, Mr. Tanko.
Good evening.
And first of all, tell us what the security situation in the town is like today. Because yesterday when we spoke to the YEA coordinator, he said he had to flee the area for his safety. Is the situation there still volatile?
The situation is under control now. We sent men from Tamale to Karaga to increase the strength of our men there. And they've been able to use those numbers to calm down the situation and secure the assembly premises as well as the police station. So there's normalcy at the place now.
And has the police made any arrests at all in connection with the violence and the vandalization of properties, as well as, you know, some of these youth freeing suspects from custody? Has anyone been arrested?
We have not made an arrest yet, but we have invited the constituency party chairman and also some persons who we have identified that he should come with them tomorrow. Meanwhile, we have men there and we will take certain actions to at Karaga apart from the invitation that we've made.
So if I understand you correctly, you're saying that you've been able to identify the people behind the violence or the vandalization of some of these properties, and you've asked them to come to the police station.
Yeah, the conflict itself is between the DCE and the YEA coordinator on one side, and then the party chairman on the other. And this rampaging youth, according to our intelligence, are supporters of the party chairman. And according to the YEA coordinator, the party chairman led an assault on him. And the assault was perpetrated by his boys. So that is why we are inviting him. Well, you know, earlier, when the YEE coordinator was allegedly assaulted, the DCE, instead of reporting the matter to the police, went and brought some military men who made some arrests and allegedly brutalized some people. So the youth became enraged as a result of that action. So that is why they went to the assembly and also to the police station to free the guys who were arrested. That notwithstanding, we have taken measures to ensure that there is total security at the place. We have invited the chairman and some people, as I earlier told you, and we will move ahead to take certain actions subsequently.
And what sort of sanctions will these perpetrators face if they are found culpable?
Yeah, we are police officers, so we don't met out sanctions. We investigate, and when we feel there are grounds for us to prosecute, then we do so.
Very well. Many thanks. That's Mohammed Tanko. He is the Public Relations Officer of the Northern Regional Police Command. And still with the police, the Ghana Police Service says it is taking steps to address the increasing cases of attacks on communities by vigilante groups and land guards. Describing the situation as worrying, the Inspector General of Police, David Asantia-Pietu, said his outfit is already taking steps to address the act of lawlessness, including deploying more officers to communities prone to such attacks. Matilda Wemaga has more.
Vigilante groups linked to the new patriotic party have been on rampage since the change in government, with the recent being an attack on the district chief executive of Karaga and the Youth Employment Agency. State agencies and established structures have been held to ransom, with school feeding caterers, hospital administrators and some government appointees bearing the brunt of the wrath of rampaging MPP members. Many have questioned why the police has been slow to act, but the Inspector General of Police says they are not overwhelmed by these cases and are on course to maintain law and order.
Police overwhelmed with the increasing case of vigilantism?
No. You see, it is our duty, our mandate, to ensure law and order. But what somebody intends doing, or crime he has intended to commit, sometimes we are unable to prevent it. It does happen, and it is for us to respond accordingly. Well, someone would say that we should live in a society where all these things should not happen. But it's an ideal one, and I don't know. I don't think it is possible to have a society that is crime-free. They will occur, but our response and how we are able to manage it is what is important.
Is political manipulation one of the challenges the police is facing in dealing with these
when crimes are committed, we don't give it any color. It's crime. So we deal with it as that. As a police officer, we deal with crimes. If you are from a political party, you commit a crime, we're going to deal with you accordingly and not as somebody coming from another political party.
The Ghana Police Service is also rolling out a series of digital transformation agenda, including going paperless. The Inspector General, Mr. Asante Apietu, said the objective is to enhance service delivery and also improve the working conditions of officers.
So the paperless stations is going to begin on a pilot basis, which eventually we will spread it all over the country. So, for example, you have before you a suspect, and you want to know who is this person. You cannot do it immediately by even the name, perhaps by taking the fingerprint. So if you can digitize the fingerprint and send it immediately to the headquarters where the database is, you are able to get answers for you to progress on your investigations. This is paperless. One of our priorities is the officer on the ground, his welfare, and that includes the insurance package that we have for police officers.
The IGP says a committee is already in place and will soon announce when the transformation program will commence.
Now, the Tema Regional Police Command says it will be prosecuting unlicensed riders for various offences in the coming days. This follows a 3-day exercise which saw 287 motorbikes impounded for fake documents, defaced and worn-out number plates. The command suspects some of these bikes may have been used in crime-related activities. Correspondent Kwame Yanka has sent in this report.
The exercise, done in collaboration with the DVLA, was to ensure that riders adhere to existing laws on registering motorbikes. Tema Regional Police PRO ASP Joseph Benefodakwa says the exercise was to help get rid of miscreants within Ashaiman and neighboring communities. Though this is not the first time, ASP Dakwa says it is yielding results. He urged residents to assist the police with information on riders who use unregistered motorbikes for various activities.
If you know anybody using unregistered motor, or you suspect that the documents covering the motors are fake, kindly report to the Ashaiman division, and then we will take the necessary action. As I indicated, this operation was done in collaboration with the DVLA, and as I speak to you, the screening is going on, after which those who don't have the accurate or the proper documentation and the registration plates will be prosecuted, will be arraigned before court. As I indicated, we hope by Friday or latest by next week, Monday, this should be done.
Meanwhile, ASP Joseph Benefodakwa says the command occasionally advised riders on the need to have genuine documents. However, the advice fall on deaf ears as some riders continue to use unregistered motorbikes.
And those who did not have riding licenses, we've directed them to the DVLA to go for the necessary test and then acquired driving or riding licenses. Those who are genuine riders, I must say, take the advice we give them and do what they need to do. But you'll be surprised that the criminals, they wouldn't take the advice and wouldn't do what it is. We have even motorbikes which have the plates of vehicles, and even one of the motorbikes had the plate of a tractor, and most of them, as I indicated, have fake registration numbers. And I think these are the motorbikes that are predominantly used for crime activities in the metropolis. And the regional command is bent on clamping down on these miscreants who are disturbing the peace of the law-abiding citizens.
Similar exercises will be conducted before, during, and after Christmas as a measure in the fight against crime. Kwame Yankes report for Joy News.
Now let's cross over to the Accra International Conference Center, where the Ghana at 60 Committee is holding one of its series of lectures titled Let There Be Light. The speaker is Mr. Kweku Awotri. He is the board chairman of the Volta River Authority. Let's watch.
3 or 4 years from now. It's good to clear those debts. We must do that. But if we leave those inefficiencies unaddressed, we'll be right back where we started. And again, it's for this reason that current and previous government administrations entered discussions with the U.S. government to seek a concessionaire as part of the Millennium Compact to better manage those assets better than what we are currently doing. Again, controversy around terms and conditions of that, but the principle is we've got to do a better job. A third root cause is what I would call the non-cost reflective tariffs. We talked about the high retail end user prices to people like you and I, but paradoxically, there are tariffs within the chain that are not cost reflective. And again, VRA is a case in point. Today, I believe VRA's bulk generation tariff, the tariff it gets for producing electricity, is 21 pesos. However, its average cost of producing power is about 30 pesos. So, VRA loses 9 to 10 pesos for every unit of electricity it supplies, ECG. In 2016, for instance, and assuming similar numbers, VRA supplied ECG 5,746 gigawatt hours of electricity. Well, that means it lost 574 million cedis for selling that electricity to ECG, plus or minus. There's no way VRA can reasonably survive as a healthy and well-run organization incurring those kinds of losses. And these are things we must address. The fourth issue I will talk about is the high price of natural gas. Price of natural gas in Ghana hovers between $8 to $9 a million BTU. Currently, the West African gas pipeline supplies gas to VRA at just above $8. The Ghana gas price, which other gas producers like ENI fall under, is closer to $9 a million BTU. In the meanwhile, the Henry Hub price for natural gas in the U.S., which is one of the key gas terminals in the world, is trading at $3 a million BTU. And
so you're watching the excerpts of the Ghana 60 lecture series, and tonight's lecture is on the energy situation, and it's titled Let There Be Light, and you are listening to the board chairman of the Volta River Authority, Kweku Awotri. We're taking a break. Business is up next.
Hello, good evening to you. Welcome to Business. Organized Labour is to present a document to government as part of its contribution to the 2018 budget. Secretary General of the Trades Union Congress, Dr. Anthony Yao-Ba, says the document will, among others, press on government to consider weaning itself off the IMF program, as well as outline other relevant concerns confronting labor unions in the country. This was at an organized labor forum on the economy. Here's more in this report.
The Organized Labour met with representatives of the Finance Ministry over various labour issues they want addressed in the 2018 budget. Top of the agenda was the need for governments to completely wean itself off the extended IMF credit facility. Speaking to Joy Business, Secretary General of the TUC, Anthony Yao-Ba, highlighted the need for government to consider the interest of labour unions before embarking on such agreements.
All our proposals to government for budget is about how we can stabilize this country so that we all be happy in our own country. But of course, our issue about IMF, the minister told us that IMF is going to be around for the next 1 year or so. We are hoping that at the end of 2018, we will see the back of IMF forever. You know, their policies are not helping us. I mean, you can't have programs with IMF every year, and we are still having these problems. We think that if we get rid of IMF programs, Ghana will propel a step further, and we will be better off. That's our opinion, and we have not been quiet about it. We have made it so open to every government, including this government. In every meeting, including our meeting with the president, we told him, and we said, as soon as possible, please get out of this IMF program and let us determine the way forward for ourselves and take responsibility for ourselves. IMF will come and get you to sign things, even though we go and bring them. Yet when they come in the negotiation, they are stronger.
Reacting to the concerns by Organized Labour, Deputy Finance Minister Abna Osei-Asare hinted that government is consulting with various unions in the country on best ways of making the budget applicable to the needs of all Ghanaians. According to her, the Finance Ministry will be taking a close look at the various taxes imposed on workers in the public sector.
Ghana got into a very bad state that we needed support to help us sustain the economy and to run the economy. So the previous government there went into a program with the IMF, and we have worked with the IMF since we came into power, and then we are trying, all of us are trying very hard to see to it that we all, go according to the agreed targets that we have set for ourselves. We believe that, like I said, we believe that by the end of 2020, we want to go with IMF to complete the 2018 budget. That's carry the budget through to the end of 2018. And then once we do that, we believe that we'll be in a better position to wean ourselves off IMF, and then we can start on our own. But our government is doing everything possible. Government is committed to the IMF program, and we'll do everything possible to see to it that we exit, peacefully.
The forum is part of efforts to seek the views of labour unions on the development of the economy.
The amount government secured from the country's share of crude oil exports witnessed significant reduction for the second quarter of the year. This was contained in Ghana's Petroleum Receipts and Distribution Report from April to June this year. There's more in the following Business Desk report.
Quarter data showed that Ghana got $92.2 million from crude oil exports. These include earnings from 2.2 million barrels of total cargo exports and taxes paid by firms operating in the country's oil fields. The revenue secured for quarter one was $2.4 million, down from what was realized in the first quarter of this year. It is, however, unclear for now what was the main reason for the decline in earnings. This is because the second quarter data actually showed that the country exported more in crude oil volumes of 2.8 million barrels at a value of $146 million. This is far more than the country got in the first quarter of the year. It also sold each barrel of crude exported in second quarter between $48 and $54. However, compared to the first quarter, there was some marginal reduction in price of crude sold. The report puts Ghana's total amount of earnings for the first half of this year at $187 million.
A former finance minister said Tekpe is optimistic moves to formalize the economy would indeed help to deal with challenges With revenue mobilization, he refers to the current administration's implementation of a new project aimed at identifying every person and structure in the country through a national ID system. Government over the years has struggled to raise the required revenue to match the level of economic activity in the country. Latest fiscal data released by the Finance Ministry showed that revenue for the first 7 months of the year was down by almost 3 billion against a target of 24 billion cedis. Speaking to Joy Business in Washington, D.C., Mr. Tekpe said this could be the country's best effort at addressing this challenge.
I'm saying that it will be better. You know, however you look at it, it will be far better than anything we have today. And I gave you the example. You go to Ibi, for example, or you go to, you know, let's say Pokwasi, and these are no new townships. They are just expanding, right? Amasama, they are expanding. They are old towns, but they are expanding. But they are expanding in an informal setting, you see, and that also goes to town planning, you know, because elsewhere, everything will be demarcated, typical to the way you have real estate developers having their streets and everything should go into the subnational government or the district assembly, you know, planning, so that by the time, you know, the place is developed, you have the streets named and everything. This is what is lacking, right? So as you formalize, you know, the streets, as you formalize the registration, you know, of the houses, and you formalize and you give numbers to taxpayers, be they business. And when we say taxpayers, we don't mean just individuals, you know, to that company that is going to register, and that's why the Registrar General works in close, you know, consonance with the closely with GRA, because that number is what you need for many. Then you are formalizing, you know, the economy. Then compliance becomes, you know, very relatively easy. So I think the perspective, you know, is, I'm not sure I can say it's a new one, but what Professor Sigis has done is to bring it to the fore. By the way, he also admonished, you know, developing countries to do well, you know, to continue with infrastructure development. I think it was very firm. And one of the areas which I like very much in the lecture is, like President Obama,
building institutions.
To build institutions.
And how best can we build the institutions to also help formalize the economy and even grow the economy?
Well, let me also bring in a modest contribution, you know, which in the context of, you know, what we did in the past, and with the support of cabinet and President, you know, Mahama, we attempted to build some of those institutions. And I think it's very important to observe that it is gratifying to see that these institutions are not just being set aside, you know, but are continuing.
The Minister for Communication has stressed the need for education and awareness to combat the incidence of mobile money fraud. This comes on the heels of a surge in mobile money fraud cases as captured in a recent report by the Bank of Ghana. Speaking to Joy Business at the sidelines of a forum for Cybersecurity Week, Deputy Communications Minister George Anda said awareness creation will go a long way to reduce exposure to fraud.
So this week has been set aside as the National Cybersecurity Awareness Week under the theme Securing Ghana's Digital Journey. So today there was a Cybersecurity Awareness Forum, and one of the key topics under discussion here was how to mitigate the mobile money fraud that seems to be on the surge. Now, some panelists for the discussion was a representative from the Bank of Ghana, a representative from the National Identification Authority, one from the NCA, as well as a mobile money person from MTN Ghana, and then the Deputy Minister for Communications. Now, one way that they believe that mobile money fraud can be tackled was by coming up with the better regulations and policies to secure this particular platform, and also having massive education and awareness among users of mobile money.
George Anda is the Deputy Communications Minister.
But we think that for now the key thing is educating the citizenry and educating the merchant layer of the chain, and making sure that we monitor the merchant layer of the chain properly, because for for a number of these fraudulent activities that are taking place, there seems to be a bit of a compromise from the merchant end. Then there seems to be a bit of a compromise from the users themselves who are giving out their pins to people that request for their pins. You know, once you give out your pin for any kind of financial transactions, then you are compromising the security of your account. And
that's all in business tonight. Many thanks for watching. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji. We have there's more in the news. Don't go away.
You're welcome back. The pathologist who carried out the autopsy on the lynched soldier Maxwell Adam Mahama has blamed police prosecutors for his inability to release the full autopsy report. Dr. Lawrence Eduse could also not tell who had taken missing body parts of the slain army officer and for what purpose the soldier was lynched by a mob in the central regional town of Dintro Boase on May 29, 2017. About 23 people are currently standing trial before the court for their involvement in the murder. There's more on Thursday's court sitting in the following report.
The order by the magistrate was to fast-track proceedings. The expectation of prosecutors was that they would have laid hands on the report by October 26. Dr. Eduse, who carried out the postmortem, however, had an explanation for the delay. He attributed it to lack of cooperation from police investigators. He said he had requested for the crime scene officer in charge of ballistics, and investigators to appear before him to assist in his work. This, he told the court, had not been complied with. He also said parts of the body of the deceased could not be traced as he was uncertain who had taken it and for what purpose. When asked why he had not contacted authorities after encountering this difficulty, Dr. Eduse said he had in the past encountered a challenge of non-payment of allowances due him by the Judicial Service, something which deterred him from pursuing the matter. In defense, police prosecutor DSP George Amega rejected a claim by the doctor. He argued the law provided for the pathologist to formally write to the police to place any request if he encountered difficulty. This, he said, had not been done. Magistrate Ebenezer Kwekwansa handed the pathologist 3 weeks to collaborate with the police investigators to ensure the report is ready. The case will be back here at the Accra Central District Court on November 23. What remains to be seen is whether the autopsy report will be available. Reporting for Joy News from the Accra Central District Court, I am Joseph Akable.
Now, what does it mean to be a journalist in a country that has no right to information? As the West African sub-region prepares for the West African Media Excellence Conference and Awards here in Ghana on Friday, my colleague Justice Bedu finds out some of the untold stories of journalism practice in the following report.
Hailed the world over as the fourth estate of the realm, the media is one of the most critical institutions speaking truth to power and demanding accountability the world over. Here in Ghana, a vibrant media is one of the reasons why the country's democracy is so robust. But who are the people behind the journalism content that we wake up to every day? And what price do they pay doing the work that they do? My name is Justice Bedu, and in this film for Joy News, I will be finding out.
The Ghana Institute of Journalism, the country's oldest media training center, a center of excellence for communication training in Africa. Here, the next generation of journalists put in their all, hoping to land their dream job.
Journalism has always been my passion. And then as I was growing up as a child, through junior high school, I was encouraged by most of my teachers to pursue it because they could see it in me, like the way I express myself and how good I am with the English language. Well, the fact that I'll be the voice for the public or the voice for women who have their rights curtailed, that excites me a lot.
Why do I want to be a journalist? Well, I have a passion for it. I love it. I love the job. So I would like to be a journalist and work in a reputable media house, or probably have my own media house and then employ people by God's grace. Yes, to come.
I, for one, I want to fight for the people in Ghana. That's why I chose journalism.
So what does being a journalist mean?
That incident it's haunted me for all these years.
Emmanuel Ante has been working at Joy News for the last 5 years. In 2012, when dispute over Ghana's election result boiled over, he was on the front line, leading Joy News' coverage.
The events as they happen, when they happen.
Well, at this point, it is almost clear the NDC's candidate, John Dramani Mahama, has won the 2012 election. The party has secured a majority in parliament. The MPP has disputed the poll and are threatening to go to court. There's tension in some parts of Accra. We are receiving reports of pockets of violent clashes.
He set out to do his work, but that would be the beginning of his peril.
On that fateful day, I was deployed to go and cover some chaos that was happening at the NPP headquarters. We were told that people with machetes are driving some of the supporters and party officials away from their offices. So we went there to cover. We got there, we got down, we were going in there, we started taking shots, and then all of a sudden the people started chasing us. They chased us and we had to run because our car had parked way ahead of us. So we ran. We took to our heels, got to the car, sat in the car, and then the driver sped off. On our way back to the office, we were coming to the office to come and report what we got. And then we noticed that they had gathered at the Kwame Nkrumah Circle, a lot of them. But before we even got there, I realized that somebody had been attacked, had been stabbed, and was bleeding in the tummy on the overhead, the circle overhead. So I asked that they stop so we cover that. I wanted to get the story, what I was seeing. My instincts just could not let me just leave it like that. So I got down out of the car, and then they went ahead. So they came back to the office, and I was using an iPhone that we were given at the time just to take shots when we are not with cameras and all that. And so I took shots of the guy who's been stabbed, bleeding, and then them trying to pick him to the hospital and all that. And then I suppose one of the guys who was involved in the attack of that person who's been stabbed started murmuring. I mean, was saying some things to the others who were standing right before him. And so immediately I descended. I got down from the bridge and went down and got through to the brass pot. And that was where the real demonstration was happening. They chased that from one point, from the Obrasport point. They chased us, and then they got to us because parts of them were coming from behind us, and then the others also met us just like that. So they beat us a bit, and then the others managed to escape because their car was just close by. So they just sat in the car and then just sped off. But for me, my car had gone, so I was trying to find my way out. They got me, and then mine was so severe. By the time I realized, I was on the floor because I had some painful bang at my back.
The Office of the Special Prosecutor is taking shape with the approval of the report of the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee of Parliament. The bill is aimed at establishing a specialized agency to investigate specific cases of corruption involving public officers as well as politically exposed persons in the performance of their functions. With the adoption of the report, the House in the coming days will debate over 100 clauses and amendments proposed in the bill. Despite backing the approval of the report, the Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu warns against attempts to use the office to prosecute functionaries of the opposition NDC. He also wants the office, when established, to focus on findings of the Auditor General.
Powers entrusted to the Special Prosecutor are powers vested in the Attorney General. And Mr. Speaker, we will share the position that when we come to improve the appointing authority, like the chairman rightly recommended, it should be prior approval of 2/3 majority of Parliament. There is a school of thought that we should get a judge of criminal standing to play the role of a special prosecutor. In some instances, they have many judges who are able to play this particular role. So let me say that we are unanimous in supporting the principle to fight corruption. Let them not be deceived that corruption is an NDC phenomenon. It is not, and it will never be, and it can never be. It is not. You've been in government before, and you think when you were in government there were no acts of corruption or abuses of power. They were. Therefore, don't create the impression. Don't create the impression. Don't create the impression that you are doing this law for former functionaries.
Intervention.
I'm concluding, Mr. Speaker. One line. So, Special Prosecutor, he must be prepared to go to court with accurate, reliable facts, not salacious allegations in the name of trial. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
But Majority Leader Osechi Mensah-Bonsu is hopeful persons holding public office will be more responsible in the management of state resources.
In the very preamble of the 1992 Constitution, the people of Ghana, whom we represent in this House, declared and affirmed their commitment to freedom, justice, probity, and accountability. Mr. Speaker, that is a collective resolve of the citizens of this country. It is not, I repeat, it is not the property of any party. Let nobody deceive himself. The people of this country in the referendum voted unanimously to adopt this constitution, which comes with this preamble. So, probity, accountability, freedom, and justice, the Speaker, is the collective resolve of the people of this country. And so, for those of them who pride themselves as the initiators of probity and accountability, if we want to extrapolate probity and accountability, nobody should run away from it then. The Honorable Ayariga rationalized that we should rather strengthen existing institutions and leave them to perform. Mr. Speaker, in corruption cases, one can never provide sufficient motivation or incentives. For instance, if today you are paying an officer, an investigator, an equivalent of $10,000 per month, and the person is to investigate a corruption case involving, let's say, $200 million, you think that person is not a human being? If he's not a man of steel, if he's not a man of conduct, if he's not a man of morality, if he's not a person of patriotism, that person will bend. So you can never, in corruption cases, provide sufficient incentives.
Attorney General Gloria Ekufu assures concerns of the public and political actors will be considered.
My office and I have listened carefully to the arguments on both sides. As the Honorable Majority Leader has said, no document is sacrosanct. Indeed, it is for that reason that this bill has to be considered by the representatives of the people of this country. We are hopeful that by the time it is done with, and my office and I will remain with the House throughout the consideration. I will want to plead with the House. The bill has been called various names, including the creation of a monster. Let us not create the impression, Mr. Speaker, that we are dealing with a can of worms. We must face up to the difficulties that this country is confronted with through corruption. But if indeed a can of worms it is, they will never mature into sausages. They may well turn into some caricatures that we might not be able to deal with should they force themselves out. Perhaps this is the time to deal with that canker called corruption. And to do that, Mr. Speaker, we must pry that can gingerly and deal with the context.
So with less than 2 months for Parliament to go on recess, will the House be able to pass the Special Prosecutor's Bill? That's the question my colleague Elton Brobe put to the Chairman of the Constitutional and Legal Committee of Parliament, Ben Abdallah.
We've gone past the second reading stage. We are entering into the consideration stage. And I learned the consideration stage will start as soon as possible next week.
But there's no guarantee. Looking at the process and the argument that may come forth, you'll be able to see through this.
When we start next week, we'll try as much as possible to ensure that this bill is given the priority, the utmost priority, so that day in, day out, from Tuesday up to Friday, even if we are not able to finish with the consideration stage, we would have done if like at least 80 to 90% of the work, so that the following week, we should be able to finish with the consideration stage, and if like take the bill through the third reading and pass it into a law.
Now, pupils and teachers of Ajekojo TMA Basic School in the Greater Accra region have appealed to government and other charity organizations to provide them with basic infrastructure to boost teaching and learning in the school. As it stands, the only CHIPS compound the community has is being used as a classroom for kindergarten pupils. MFAT Nancy Dradosi visited the school and has come through with this report.
Serving as the only government school in Ajekojo, a suburb of Accra, for about 20 years, the school virtually lacks everything a school needs to function effectively.
We don't have toilet facilities and we don't have a place to dump refuse, so we throw refuse everywhere. And also the classroom were not built properly, so when we close, our legs become dirty and all that. And also we don't have a urinal, we don't have water to use, and a lot. And even we need a fence wall too.
Donated by the former mayor of Tema, Isaac Ashayo Dampting, to serve as a CHIPS compound for residents of Ajekojo, the building has now been turned into a classroom for these kindergarten pupils. Just in front of the classroom is this uncompleted septic tank, which teachers have tried covering with this piece of wood to avoid these pupils from falling into the pit. Students with a population of about 2,000 move in and out of the school at any time because they lack a fence to properly enclose them.
The school has no fence wall, you understand, and that makes controlling of the kids extremely difficult. You have children coming in and going out at any time. You cannot control them because there are no fence wall to control. Especially again with the use of the school park, because the school is not fenced, you have everybody literally coming in and out at any time, which affects the tone of the school. You are not able to control the school. You are not able to make sure that the school is sanitized for proper academic activity.
So this is the area where students of the Ajekojo TMA 1 and 2 basic school ease themselves. These students have to move from their classrooms to these bushes. Very dangerous to ease themselves because they do not have toilet facilities. This used to be a place of convenience for students of Ajekojo, which has been abandoned after members of the community turned it into theirs. This World Bank funded project for the rehabilitation of a toilet facility for the school has stalled with no apparent reason.
We want urinal, washing room. Some of the girls have been sometimes menstruating in the school, so the time the girl spent to go to the house, that girl can use that time to go to the washroom to arrange herself. Even some of the girls have been using polythene bag under their panties.
Right in the middle of the school is a heap of garbage put up by both students and residents of Ajekojo.
Outsiders coming to dump refuse here. And what can you do? Sometimes they do it when you have closed and gone. There's nothing you can do about it. And that is where they dump the refuse. The whole public Ajekojo community, most of them, this is where they dump their refuse.
Primary 4, 5 and 6 study under this structure due to unavailability of classrooms. though this 12-unit classroom under construction has been abandoned by the contractor.
In a class, we are about 70 in a class, and when the teacher is teaching, there is like, we talk a lot, the students talk a lot, and it produces heat in the class. So it's not make us pay attention. So when you get enough classrooms, so at least 40 will be in a class, so that there will be space for the teacher to move through.
As if the school's problems are not enough, squatters have also taken over the portions of the school where some live in very dangerous pits in the open. Children in the school have to stand and take their meals because they lack a canteen or a dining hall.
You ask yourself, why is it that the school has been neglected for so long? This is the only government school, for crying out loud, and I believe that we demand a lot from government.
Head teachers, though disturbed, failed to speak to our cameras for fear of being sanctioned by the Ghana Education Service. However, teachers and students are calling on the government and other organizations to come to their help. Nancy Emefadradosi, reporting for Joy News.
Now, Deputy Minister for Agriculture designate Kennedy Osei-Nyarko says it is ideal for government to distribute free fertilizers to farmers if it could afford it. Government earlier this year slashed prices of fertilizers by half, contrary to previous distributions that were free. But Kennedy Osei-Nyarko told Parliament's Appointment Committee the subsidized rate could have been higher to enable all farmers afford the chemical to boost yields.
The ideal way should have been to give it to everybody free. But I believe the country or the nation cannot afford to give fertilizer to every farmer free. So, because of the limited resources the country has, the challenge will be to get enough money to buy and distribute it free, which will not be ideal. So, I would prefer where government will subsidize so that everybody, irrespective of wherever you come from, whether you are and whatever party you come from, you can get access to it. You can buy it from the dealers without having any difficulty. So I will recommend that we should rather subsidize it at a certain fee, not at a fee which will be too much for the farmer to bear, but a certain minimal fee which will encourage every farmer to go and get it.
Chairman, since our colleague is already an elected member of Parliament.
Well, the Deputy Minister designate, who will replace William Kwetu, who resigned in August over ethnocentric comments, says one of the key areas he will focus on is agriculture modernization. He contends there are innovative ways farmers can acquire tractors at a reduced cost to help them till and harvest and also reduce intensive labor.
Once we want to modernize agriculture, then we have to make sure we bring the necessary input and machinery to ensure that the ordinary farmer or the smallholder farmer have access to this kind of machinery or equipment. So there are several ways that they can acquire. You have the high purchase where they can even give it to them and work, and at the end of the day, or even on a rental basis, because not everybody can have that money to go and own it, but we can have a farmer support center, service center, where we have all those machinery there. Then they can go, those who don't have the money to acquire outright, you can also go and rent it and use it to plow their lands.